Good morning, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to my morning news report right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. Elizabeth Warren makes impassioned plea for universal child care before more than 900 New Hampshire Democrats. Presidential candidate Bay State Senator headlines New Hampshire Democratic Party 100 Club fundraiser. More than 900 Democrats heard presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren make an impassioned push for a multi-billion-dollar federally funded universal child care program and promised to work for little families during a major state party fundraiser event Friday night. Warren, a second term U.S. Senator from neighboring Massachusetts, landed the keynote speaking role at the 60th New Hampshire Democratic Party 100 Club dinner at the Doubletree Hotel by Hilton in the state's largest city. She used the high profile platform to lay out her progressive agenda, focusing most of her 35-minute speech on universal child care, a proposal she unveiled in details earlier this week. It was a key appearance for Warren in the first in the nation primary state, just 3 days after another progressive neighbor, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, declared his candidacy for a second run for president. Speaking with reporters after her speech, Warren was asked flatly if she will win the 2020 New Hampshire primary. She said, "I'm sure going to try," she answered, stopping short of predicting victory. During the midterm cycle, Warren raised money for the New Hampshire Party at a fundraiser in Boston, and her political committee funded several party senior staff members and organizers. Warren was among several Democrats who are now running for president or about to run, who helped the NHDP have a successful 2018 midterm election cycle, in which the state legislature and executive council flipped to Democrat control, and Democrats held the state's 2 U.S. House seats. With 920 people in attendance, NHDP Chair Raymond Buckley said the dinner raised about $400,000 for the party. The party said the total raised was more than the amount raised by the state Republican Party during the entire year of 2017. In an address that made no mention of President Donald Trump, Warren saying, "Let's just get wonky for a minute here," proposed expanding the current network of locally owned, federally funded children care centers, preschool centers, and in-home programs. She told her own personal story of nearly being unable to pursue her legal career because of a lack of child care, saying that her Aunt B from Oklahoma came to her rescue and took care of her child and children. That story is part of my heart forever, Warren said. It tells a basic truth. Nobody makes it on their own. And without childcare, millions and millions of American families simply won't make it. The federal government provides child care for all military families, and we have 900,000 kids in top-notch Head Start programs, she said. This is about building out so every family has access and keeping it affordable. She said that child care workers would be paid salaries similar to those of public school teachers. Under Warren's plan, families with income of $50,000 or less would receive free child care. Those who make more would pay up to 7% of their incomes. Warren said that a New Hampshire family of four with an annual income of $125,000 a year would pay no more than $6,000 a year for childcare. The campaign said that a typical family in New Hampshire now pays about $21,000 a year for care of their two children. According to economics at Moody's analyst, the program would cost the federal government $70 billion a year, more than it currently spends on child care programs, or $700 billion over a 10-year period. Warren would pay for program with some of the proceeds of her proposed wealth tax on those she calls multimillionaires, people with a net worth of $50 million or more. Her campaign has estimated the tax would generate $2.75 trillion in government revenue in 10 years. The ultra-millionaire tax I've been talking about that requires families with a net worth of $50 million or more to pay a 2% tax that one change would bring in all the money we would need to complete cover the cost of this universal child care and early education plan, and still have a couple of $1 trillion left over, Warren said. Think about that. Asking the 75,000 wealthiest families in this country to pay a little more would cover the cost of providing affordable and higher quality child care and early education options to every child in our country. Warren touched on other issues in her progressive agenda: gun violence, student loan debt, the skyrocketing cost of prescription drugs, the crushing cost of health care, a broken criminal justice system, drugs and overdoses, oil companies that have more say at the EPA than the millions of people who see with their own eyes the deduction coming with climate change. She said, "Money affects nearly every decision in Washington, and I'm in this race to fight back." But she said her primary focus in her speech was childcare, because whether you have a small child or not, we all have an interest in the future of this country, and that means we have an interest in investing in American children. Until until all of us decide, men and women, married and single, black and white, old and young, that we are willing to invest more in all our children, then we cannot build a country in which women have equal opportunity. Yeah, it's not easy to make big changes, but you don't get what you don't fight for. And I'm in this fight for working families, Warren said, because working families are getting crushed, and it's been that way for a very long time. I'm in this fight because I want a government that doesn't just work for billionaires and grant corporations. I want a government that works for little families trying to make it from paycheck to paycheck. When government workers only for the wealth and well connected, and when it abandons anyone who isn't a big company donor and can't hire or arm of lobbyists, that is corporation, plain and simple. It's time to fight back, Warren said. Warren's speech came at an important moment in the early stage of New Hampshire campaign. Earlier this week, Sanders entered the race, proposing to continue his revolution and citing his progressive agenda. Sanders won the 2016 First in the Nation presidential primary. But this year's race is far different, with about a dozen Democrats having declared candidacy or forming exploratory committees. The past 11 days alone saw 10 candidates or likely future candidates visit the state. A win in New Hampshire primary, to be held less than a year from now, is viewed as most for both Warren and Sanders, given their proximity to the familiarity with the Granite State. During her remarks to the crowd, Senator Jean Shaheen praised Warren as a force to be reckoned with. She is someone who you want on your side when you're in a fight, and make no mistake, we are in a fight for the soul of this country. Warren joined a long line of prominent speakers who have headlined past 100 Club events, many of whom were announced or potential president candidates or leading national Democrats. The 100 Club dinner has been held annually since 1959, when it was organized to promote the presidential candidacy of then Senator John F. Kennedy. In more recent years, it was named for the late Senator Tom McIntyre and Shaheen, the first woman in the nation to serve as governor and a U.S. senator. According to the NHDP, since 1959, every Democrat president and vice president has spoken at this legacy dinner. Former Vice President Joe Biden drew a crowd of about 800 at the 2017 event. Presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley shared the stage at the 2016 dinner at the Southern New Hampshire University Arena. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was featured in 2015, while former Vermont Governor Peter Schlemil was the 2014 headliner. In prior years, speakers have included President Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and Vice President Al Gore. The party Friday night honored two of own with awards. Former State Senator Molly Kelly, who was the Democrat governor nominee in 2018, was presented the McIntyre Shaheen Legacy Award by Senator Jeanne Shaheen, while Jim Varconin, chair of the Dover Democrat Committee and a former state legislator, was presented with the Dunfree Kentines Award, which is named for two of the party's most received supporters, the late Walter Dunphy and Leo Kintries. Attendees also watched a video recounting the history of the 100 Club event produced by State Rep. Cole Real of Goffstown. The 100 Club event is one of the two major fundraisers held by the state Democrat Party each year. The other is the Eleanor Roosevelt Dinner, formerly the Jefferson Jackson Dinner, and the Kennedy Clinton Dinner held in late summer or fall. Last year, actor Alec Baldwin headlined the Roosevelt event. Meanwhile, Warren plans to meet voters Saturday in Laconia, Plymouth, and Nashua. Aside from Warren, Minnesota U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar and California U.S. Rep. Eric Swell will also be in the Granite State. And that's it for my morning news report right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another news report. Goodbye, everyone.